Om Namah
Om Namah
Shivaya.
Shivaya.
Pranams to all our brothers and sisters. So today we're going to talk about biochar, and we have Upasana here who's going to be sharing with us about how she was introduced to biochar.
Okay, so how do I knew it? Biochar. This is a little bit story about it. And a few years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I was in a garden alone because Amma was Indian tour. So nobody is there. So I was giving water every day because March or April time, so hot in India. So every day I'm giving water and Tracy getting weak. So I give the compost, I give the wormy compost, water, but doesn't help. Still they're going like this and changing color, falling the leaves. So I was crying start and pray to Amma, please help the Tracy. Then soon after, Seva Desk is sending one couple from Australia. And husband came to the garden and he said, what can I help you? I heard this word, one word, I felt, wow, Amma is calling him. He was in a biochar master.
And so let's first define, well, what is biochar?
Yes, biochar is made from wood or bamboos, dry one.
So when we burn wood or bamboo in a special way, it doesn't burn to ash, it burns into charcoal, a form of charcoal that's beneficial for plants.
And what's needed for this charcoal is activations.
Yes. In order to use it in our garden, we have to activate it first. So we put in nutrition for the plants. We put in some kind of mix that has microorganisms, that has minerals. So basically we want to imbue the biochar with nutrients, microorganisms, and minerals. And we do this by soaking the biochar in worm compost, or we could put it in a compost pile, or
Yes.
whatever has a lot of microorganisms. See, this charcoal has a lot of holes in it called pores, and these pores will absorb all these nutrients, all these microorganisms. They actually provide a whole living ecosystem for microorganisms and nutrients. And so how did it benefit your plants?
Sick Tracy we had and make holes all around the sick Tracy's.
So you took a
Forks.
digging fork,
Forks.
you know, it looks like a shovel, but it has a fork prongs. You put that in the ground and you wiggle it back and forth and you make holes all around your plant. And then you take the activated biochar and you mix it with water, right? And then you poured it into those holes.
Yes. Next day, all Tracy coming back.
So your plants are looking healthy and better already in one day. Wow, that's amazing.
That's why we love them.
Because we love our plants and it's so good for our plants.
Yes.
Nice, very nice. So now we're going to look a little bit at, we're going to show you a little bit about how to make it first on the bulletin board here, and then we're going to actually go out to the beach and make some biochar.
So what we needed?
Oh yeah, what tools do we need? What supplies do we need to make the biochar?
Yeah, if you have a wood, it's okay. But if you have a bamboo, like a harvesting bamboo, it's okay too. So this is big material, and we need a shovel for digging. And we need leaves, dry leaves.
Dry leaves to get the fire, because we need to burn the wood, so we need to have dry leaves to get it started.
And matches. And 2 buckets of water for safety. And we need some covered on top.
Yeah, so you can use a burlap sack, or you could use and you want to use wet burlap or wet cardboard you could put on top.
And this is we are using for fire. We have to find
the right place.
Yeah, it's a space and no tree all around.
Yeah.
Yes.
And another thing we want to mention is the water. You're going to need to have fresh water, not salt water. So you need, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that later. So now let's move over to the board. Okay, so usually when we make a fire, we make it above ground with sticks, and then the fire flames are burning. And this process of burning wood is called combustion, and it uses a lot of air. And at the end of combustion of wood, we get ash. Okay, so we are not going to do that. We are not going to build a fire above ground because we don't want ash. We want charcoal. So we're going to teach you how to make charcoal. Okay, so the first step in making charcoal is we're going to use our shovel and we're going to dig a hole in the ground. So we're going to dig a hole. We're going to dig a very special kind of hole. We're going to dig a hole in the shape of a cone, like this. Okay? So this is going to be the shape of our pit. Okay? The reason we're building this pit in the shape of a cone is because we want to burn the wood through a process called pyrolysis, which burns wood with less oxygen. So by having a cone-shaped pit, it will exclude oxygen from the fire, and the end result will become charcoal and not ash. Yay! Okay, so we're going to start off by making a little fire in the bottom of the pit. Like this. Okay, so the second consideration we're going to need to think about is how do we add the wood to this fire? So in this particular process, when we're making biochar to put out in nature, we have to be very conscientious about how we add the wood. We want to make our wood, we want to chop it into pieces about this wide. We want to have different sizes. We're going to have some skinny sizes like this, some are maybe a little bit thicker, and maybe some thicker pieces of wood, like this. We want to have little pieces to large pieces. So, when we start with our fire at the bottom, first we want to add the thin little pieces of wood. Okay? The next layer, we want to add a little bit bigger pieces of wood. Okay? The next layer is going to be, again, longer, larger pieces of wood. Why are we adding the wood in successive order like this? It's because if we add a large piece onto a small piece, it's going to create airspace. And we want to minimize the airspace. We want to actually have less airspace between the pieces of wood. So when they're more similar in size, there will be less air between them. They'll become more kind of compacted a little bit. Okay, so then we add maybe the larger pieces here. And then in succession, we're going to fill the pit again with the medium-sized pieces. And then with a little bit smaller pieces. And finally with the small pieces. So we were never going to actually be burning above the ground. The whole fire is going to take place in the pit. Okay? And we're going to have our buckets of water here ready in case, combustion starts happening because we maybe didn't dig our pit deep enough or there's some problem. So we always want to make sure that we have water because it's a fire. We want to be safe. We want to make sure that above our pit there is no tree, because even if the flames don't reach that tree, the heat from the fire can burn the leaves of the tree. So we want to make sure that we're far away from being under any foliage or any trees. Okay, we're going to take our water and we're going to pour it into our pit, and it's going to be a big steam cloud. And what that steam is going to do, it's going to do two things. It's going to put the fire out because we don't want to put hot coals on our garden, and it's also going to blow out any dust or residue inside the pore. So it'll really make that biochar clean and with open pores and ready to absorb the nutrients and the microbes once it's cooled and we're ready to activate it. Okay. So the final step is we're going to take wet sacks, our little that we have already soaked in water. And we're going to put those on top of the fire here to smother the fire further, okay? So that in the end, the whole thing is going to be, as little air as possible is going to get to the end of the fire. Now sometimes we can let this sit overnight and come back to the fire come back to the biochar the next day. But you can also, if you've doused it well enough, you can just let it sit for a little while and then come back and take it out and take out the biochar. You have the option of drying the biochar before you inoculate it, or you can inoculate it wet. Either way is fine. Okay, so once your pile is finished, you're going to open up your pit, and then you're going to have your, you're going to put your compost and water in here, and then you're going to take the biochar and you're going to soak it in this bucket, so it's going to become full of biochar and water and compost. And you can soak that overnight, and then it'll be ready to put into your plants. If you have time and you can, grind up your biochar into smaller pieces before you inoculate it. You can also do that as well. The smaller the pieces, the more surface area, the more benefit for your plants.
Today we showed how to activate the charcoal and how to apply it.
Okay, so the first process to activate the charcoal that we have here to make it into biochar is we're going to take it and we're going to crush it. And you want to make sure you take pieces that are properly charred. Like this is not burnt properly. So we have to find, so you're going to pick out those pieces. And if it snaps easily, you know, of course, that it's ready. So we're going to take a hard surface and we're going to take some of our biochar and just put it on our hard surface, and we're going to crush it with a rock. And you want to crush it until you get it into as much of a powder as you have time to make. So something like this. Okay? If you get it into a very fine powder, you're going to have to wear a mask because that fine powder will affect your breathing. But this is still a little damp, so we don't need to use a mask. But if it's very dry and it's very powdery, you need to wear a mask because that can bother your lungs.
Now we do the measurement. This is a coconut cup. We can measure, but you can use any measurement. And this is crushed biochar. We use 2 cups.
So, to reiterate the recipe, we're going to use 2 parts of charcoal. We're going to use 1 part of the worm compost, 2 caps of the EM, and this cup is about 5 of these little coconuts, so that would be like 10 parts water. So you want a significantly larger amount of water. And always remember, we always kind of eyeball it. So this is a general recipe. You can adjust it either way, a little less, a little more, depending on what you have. So just be relaxed, don't worry.
And we do the all mixing. Thank you for learning the biochar today.
Om Namah Shivaya.